we will continue to uncover arrays. Let's look at the next case. So whenever we are assigning one array another array, internal elements won't be copied. Just the reference variables will be assigned to the else the sizes of the arrays are not important. Let's look at with some examples. So for example, I have an int a 10, 20, 30, and let's say I have an integer b with, say, for example, 40 and 50. And if I want to print a, I do arrays to string a and arrays to string b. Then, for example, if I assign b to a and try to print a and b after assigning, let's look at what happens when we execute this Java program. Compile, and execute. So for the first time, A printed 10, 20, 30, and B printed 40, 50. After the line 10, we assigned B to A. So now A is equal to 10, 20, 30 is gone, and instead A holds 40 and 50. So even if the size of A is 3 and B is 2, we can still assign. That's the statement we just made here. Copy the output of this program here. For example, if I just do the other way around, assign A to B, and now I should print A, B, then A 2 times. Let's see if that happens. Secure. So this time I've got 8 times after I assign B to A. Now let's look at case 3. Whenever we are assigning one array to another array, dimensions must be matched. What that means in place of one dimensional array, we should provide only one-dimensional array. If not, we will get error. So let's look with some example. So for example, if I have a two-dimensional array, A int A equal to, int of size 3, and say for example, if I say A of 0 is equal to mu int 4 and 5. This is not allowed. So let's try to compile and see what is the error that we get. It says incompatible types. Two-dimensional array cannot be converted to one-dimensional array. So when we assign arrays, the dimensions should be matched. Let's say, for example, if I try to assign integer 10 to A of 0 and try to compile, it says incompatible types int cannot be converted to integer array. So just paste this sample also in my notes and copy the error here. The next one is reading and writing elements of an array. So let's see one example. For example, so for reading, we have scanner class, and for printing, we can utilize any of the loops to write elements from the array, for example, for loop or for each loop. And we'll see using all these loops one by one. So for example, let's say we will take the input from the user. So scanner object equal to, so this is the object name. You can take anything, new scanner, system.in, which means that we take the input from the user. Let's print message for the user system out println. Let's do the print because we just take the input from the same line. So print enter size of an array first. Let's say he enters the size of the array first. He decides the size of the array. Then we declare int size is equal to object name dot next in. So this gets the user input, that is size. And then we name the array as new int of size. This is our array which we generated. Now we have to read the elements from the user. So for that, what we will do is I'll ask the user to enter those many elements. For example, he decided the size. So I say enter those many elements. And I'll do the next line, println. So I'll use for loop in index is equal to 0, then index is less than 8 of length. That gives the size of the array. And then we increment the index plus plus. Let's open and close the for loop. And here, a of index is equal to object name dot next int. So once he entered all the elements, we need to print these elements, and I'll be using a while loop here. I'll just give a message, something like array elements are, and declare int I is equal to 0. This is my counter, and while I less than a dot length, and open the while loop, and I'll just print a of I, which is the front element. Then I'll increment I. Let's try to execute this program. Compile, execute, enter the size of array. I'll enter 4, and then maybe I'll enter 12, 5, 67, 18. Those are the array elements that I have entered. Let's try to execute it again. This time I'll enter the size of the array 6, so I have to enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. So if you notice here, either you can use spaces to enter the elements, or you can use enter and a new line, and then you can enter your elements. Let me take this example and put it in the notes. Okay, this time, instead of while loops, I will use the for loop to read the elements. So for loop, I don't need to declare the integer I can just declare in the for loop itself for int I is equal to 0, I less than a length, and then I plus plus. And here I'll just remove this line and try to file and execute this program. Enter the size of the array 5. Enter 5 elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the array elements are 5. So you can switch the loop from while for, and now I'll try to change the for loop to for each loop. So for each loop is int element is the element name. You can give it anything, and then print the element. Now let's try to compile and execute. Enter array elements. I'll enter 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we got the result. Here's the for loop, for each loop program here, and the result will essentially look the same. This time we will also look at this function called arrays to string to print the array. So I don't need any for loop or for each loop or while loop. I'll just use system.println, and I'll use this function here, arrays string, and let's try to compile and then execute. Enter the size of the array 5. I'll enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is how the array is printed. I'll take the output. So we have seen while, for loop, and for each loop, and arrays to string function, print the array. So let's summarize what case we will take each of these. Case 1 for printing, you can take arrays to string. And for example, case 2, you need to access the elements. Then you will go for each loop. And then case 3, need to access elements index, then you will go for loop. I demonstrated while loop, but that's not re frequently used. You can just go for loop or for each loop. So for example, I have m elements, and let's say I need to print, then I do a raise to string. Then step two, maybe I have to sort them. Then again, print the sorted array, then I'll use arrays to string. Let's take another example, sum of even elements and of odd elements in an array. In this case, I'll go for each loop. Then if the element is even, then add some even. And if the element is odd, I'll use some odd, then print it. For example, if I have to swap first and last element, and second and maybe second last element, then I need to go for indexing. So I need to go for loop. So I will have the index. I'll stop here and continue.